Hello everyone, Statname here. We continue analyzing top players from different stakes, and today we have a guy named B. Weller who plays in a WPN network. It's a good aggressive player with a break-even red line, a decent blue line, a decent win rate of 7.4 BBs per 100, and annual 200 average stake. What really stands out for me in this player is that he plays a lot against regulars. Usually when we see a guy with like huge win rate of 10 BBs per 100 and more, we have a player with a really good table selections. And today we have a completely different guy. His table selection is, I'd say, below average. Not so good, but it doesn't stop him from winning and making a lot of money. And today, as usual, we will go over 3 hands played by this guy. Okay, first hand, pocket jacks middle position. We open, we get a call and they squeeze from the big blind. And we call. Everything pretty much standard here up to this point, and we are heads up against the big blind. Let's take a look who are we facing here. Okay, it's a regular, a 29-24, a 13% 3-bet. We can also check out his squeeze stats. And his average squeeze is 6%. Our hand is not good enough to 4-bet preflop, but definitely good enough to call. And we hit a decent board, we hit a set, and let's see, our opponent starts with the bet. It's a half pot bet, so we can raise here right away. We can protect against turn and river cards we don't really like. We don't really want to see a king or a 10. Which could kill all the action and also kill our hand. But Hero went with the call. Calling here is also a decent option. This way we allow our opponent to continue betting. It works especially well against aggressive opponents. And yep, this way we keep all of his bluffs in, and also we can easily control the size of the pot on the following streets, because we are in position. And this opponent is actually a very good candidate to call against, because if we take a look at his c-bet frequencies in 3-bet pots, out of position, we see 80, 58, and 67. So it is quite high, higher than average for regulars, let's say. And his aggression frequency is also quite high on each street. Yeah, it's definitely above average for regulars. And I really like his low one at showdown stat. 49%, it may be that he overplays some hands or that he bluffs too much. Okay, so what do we make out of this? Well, if you have a decision, if you have a borderline decision between calling and raising, let's say, like in this spot, for example, then you can use those stats to finally decide what to do. 3 on the turn, well, there's definitely a point in raising here, actually shoving on the turn. 3 is a brick overall, but still there are some draws now on the board. And we still don't want to see any kings or 10s on the river. So yeah, we can definitely shove here, but again, we have a very aggressive opponent who probably overplays his hands, so calling is also an option. And of course, an easy call on a brick river card. And he shows top 2. Alright, next hand, we open pocket queens, face a 3-bet from the big blind. Here's our opponent, 24-21, a 10.1 3-bet. Again, in these positions, a low jack versus big blind, queens is a borderline hand, meaning that we can both call it and play it as a 4-bet. But if we know how often our opponent 3-bets overall, or in these positions specifically, well, it may help us to make a more accurate, a more informed decision. Okay, let's take a look. He's 3-bet on the big blind against MP. He 3-bets 8% in these positions, and to me, against such a 3-betting range, it's an easy shove. So I would 4-bet without giving it too much thought. And he also has a clear tendency we can track by his stats that he 3-bets more on the big blind. This is completely opposite to what most players do. Usually people under 3-bet on the big blind. But anyways, knowing that this guy really likes to 3-bet on the big blind, it's an easy 4-bet for us. Well, surely we stack off. By the way, he shows aces, but we were lucky enough to hit a queen on the flop. Final hand for today, queens again, only this time we are the one who 3-bets. The flop is 10-10 jack, and right from the get-go we can tell that this is not the spot, this is not the board where we often want to bet for 3 streets, at least against an average regular. Why is that? Well, the thing is that there are 2 10s on the board. And if you bet for 3 streets, there are almost no hands in his range that are weaker than pocket queens, and that he's willing to call 3 times, I mean. Well, there are definitely not enough hands he would call down for our 3 barrels to be profitable. However, there is an alternative line, but we will come back to it later. First, let's take a look at our opponent's stats. Okay, it's a regular 21-16, not a very high fold to 3-bet, quite average, I'd say 52%. But what's really important is that he is quite passive. 38-1 when soft flop, and quite passive stats for each street. 1 at showdown, 53, also totally fine for us. So we see a quite passive and very honest opponent. His raising frequency is also quite low. So what our hero went for against such a passive opponent? He bets small, a third of the pot, clearly a value bet against jack access and some other combos, and we have a 7 on the turn. Well, 7 is mostly a brick. I mean, of course, 8-9 is a straight now. But would he even open 8-9 on UTG? With these stats, 21-16, I think not. Also, he might fold against a 3-bet with such a hand. So yeah, mostly it's a brick, and we keep on betting small. We value bet the same hands we value bet on the flop. If you're used to bigger bets like 2/3 or 3/4, you can also use smaller bets in spots like this. And a total brick on the river. Of course, we don't want to check call against such a passive opponent. We definitely want to bet ourselves, bet for value. So what we did is basically we value bet 3 streets using small sizings to get value from Jack-X combos and other hands with an idea of folding to raise. And eventually he calls and we take